Woke up this morning and the sun was gone. Turned on some music to start my day.
Hello there, welcome to my channel. My name is Doug and I'm back with an extra fountain pen video. This is an extra video this week, so don't get used to this. I spoil you guys. And thank you in advance for liking and subscribing to my channel. Your clicks and likes pay for cool stuff like this. I had to do an extra video about this new toy. No, it isn't a new Moonman Q1. It is a PenBBS nib. This isn't just any nib. Oh no. This is a custom-made nib by the good folks at PenBBS. They call it the Calligraphy No. 1. As long as I've known about PenBBS fountain pens, I've heard people complain about the lack of nibs any broader than a medium. Well, here you go, folks. Not only is this a broad nib, it is cut in the style of a Naginata Togi calligraphy nib. What's that? What's that, you're asking? What's a Naginata Togi?
Toga! Toga! I think they like the idea, Hoove.
No, nothing like that. It's kind of like, well, sort of like a cross between... I think I need a demonstration because inquiring minds want to know right now. So this isn't a new pen day or a new ink day. This is a new nib day. NND. And the new nib is from PenBBS. Now I paid extra shipping for this, EMS, because I'm still waiting on my March 14th order from PenBBS. It's lost somewhere in China. So you pay a little bit more, and this came in a couple of weeks. And here it is. It's called a 353, which is a pen fob, but it's a special new, what PenBBS calls a calligraphy nib. And here it is in a condom. And we unscrew a nice acrylic. And here's the nib. It's called a No. 1 calligraphy. And it has a really nice little motif on it. Looks like a chicken to me. Maybe an alien chicken. But No. 1 says to me there might be more. But the more interesting thing about this pen and the nib is it is in the style of a Naginata Togi. Something to look forward to. So I've decided to swap the calligraphy nib, the PenBBS calligraphy nib here, into my PenBBS 491, and I'm hoping that with this thicker nib that will show off the ink nicely as well. And take this nib section off. Take this one and unscrew it from the nib charm. Make sure it has the two O-rings in place. Screw the new nib in. You have to be very careful with these fins on these PenBBS feeds, as they are very fragile. Put the converter back into the pen, and then before I put the barrel on, push a little bit of ink up through that section. There we go. Little bit drip out. Just like that. Then put my barrel back on. And we'll try a writing sample. Okay, so you asked some very good questions, or at least I pretended you asked some very good questions, and I'm going to do my best to answer them correctly. Now remember, folks, I'm no expert. I'm learning this as I go along, and I'm glad you're here with me to discover this cool stuff.
I respectfully request a full day's continuance to go over all this stuff. Request denied.
Thanks a lot.
As I see it, there are two primary ways of getting line variation out of a fountain pen. One, make the nib a flex, kind of like this. This is my Pilot Falcon. And of course that only works if you can control your handwriting. So those people with either perfect handwriting or people who have painstakingly taken calligraphy classes and practiced. But even though we admire those people, we seldom invite them to parties.
But mostly because they didn't get invited to those sort of parties.
Then there's the rest of us that don't like our scratchy handwriting. And we don't want to work at it, so we want a cheap solution. And that is number 2, which is the shape of the nib. This is where we let the shape of the nib create line variation for us using a normal stroke. If your handwriting doesn't improve with one of these cool nib grinds, try printing. And even though there are all kinds of variations of nib grinds, shapes, and sizes, I'm going to focus on 3 kinds. And that is a stub, an architect, and number 3, what I'm going to call a variable architect, or what Sailor calls a Naginata Togi, and PenBBS is calling calligraphy number 1. Naginata Togi, translated from the Japanese, means long curved sword for the profile of the tip, and is basically a trade name exclusive to Sailor. Now I know I'm going to get jumped on by the internet pen nerds about my terminology. I don't give a schmidt.
Did you hear what he said? Holy smokes!
I'm explaining it as best I can, and I see fit. So correct away in the comments. And first, the stub. This is a nib that has no tipping material and is basically a flat horizontal blade. It makes a thin horizontal line and a thicker vertical line. No pressure. Just move the nib. And there are tons of varieties, from obliques to sharp-edged italics, and I'm just not going to get into that. Here is my italics. That's a brand name, ITALIX, from mrpen.co.uk, and it's broad. You can see the absence of a ball tipping material on the end. It's just a blade of steel. They make a chisel point and then round down the edges to make the nib smoother. The smoother the edges, the less defined the edge of the ink line will be. Of course, the sharper the edges, the crisper the line, but also the more feedback and the more scratchy it will feel. This one here is also angled slightly up to the right, so it is an oblique. Next is an architect grind, and this is the opposite of a stub, and this requires tipping material. A good amount of tipping material to start is preferred, as a lot of it has to be ground off. The architect grind makes a thin vertical line and a thick horizontal line, which is opposite the stub. This is my Leonardo Ferrari Salt, which has a broad Jovo nib. Jack Hernandez, my nib guru, cut this one into an architect for me. He shaved down the sides of the tipping material to create a long vertical slit. And here from the side view, you can see that angled tip that he custom ground for my writing angle to the page. This is an awesome nib, and I find this enhances my writing much better than a stub. Just my personal preference. And the third is what I'm calling a variable architect. This is a nib that not only gives you the architect effect of thick horizontal lines and thin verticals, it also changes thickness depending on the angle to the page of your writing. Here is the PenBBS Calligraphy No. 1 nib enlarged. You see the writing angle like my custom architect, but the bottom shows a characteristic pear-shaped footprint. This allows the line to be thin when the pen is held vertical and gets thicker as you lower the pen angle to the page. This is the characteristic shape of the Naginata Togi style nib grind. The big difference is, of course, that the Calligraphy No. 1 nib is steel and the Naginata Togi from Sailor is 21 karat gold, and so it flexes. This calligraphy nib does not flex. Sailor also has a zoom nib, which produces a thicker line depending on the angle of the pen to paper, but it does not provide line variation when you're cursive writing unless you can change your vertical angle on the fly, and good on you if you can. Look at how this nib performs. It's super juicy wet and has a killer line variation. Your writing has an instant character, and all you have to do is write with it with your usual chicken scratch. It's so much like a paintbrush. I can see why writers of Asian language calligraphy would love this nib, but it's also wonderful for Western cursive writing and printing as well. And that's the biggest takeaway from today's video. I got this nib for only, wait for it, $20 US. I'll repeat that. $20 US. To get a Naginata Togi from Sailor, you have to buy a 21 karat gold Sailor 1911 large pen with a Naginata Togi nib, which retails for around $600 US. Or you could get a broad or a double broad nib in any pen and have a Nibmeister custom grind one for you. Or you can get one from PenBBS for $20. Get two, get three. Don't like PenBBS pens? Then just pull the number 6 size nib out of that PenBBS feed collar and put it in your own pen that accepts the number 6 size nib. I've got this one in my PenBBS 491 Starry Night, as I said previously. When the other two arrive, one is going to go into my Moonman M800 Galaxy, which currently has a wonderful PenBBS fine nib. But I want it to have that Naginata Togi kind of writing characteristic. I'm looking forward to that. But this is totally awesome. PenBBS leads the way yet again. And there you have it. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell to get instant notification whenever a new video is posted. And that just leaves it for me to say, thank you for watching. And that's all she wrote.
I made this.